Chickadee check, 1 2 1 2. Hopefully this is better. Fingers crossed.
It's going to come on in a second. I'm sure there's a delay.
Chickadee check, 1 2 1 2. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Aaron is the MC and I am the rapper. That's not true at all. I can't rap to save my life.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking in, hanging in with us. Cheers to that.
Oh, my guy. Thank you, man. You've been working really hard on this. You know, he's doing the thing.
You know, it's honest work, but somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for letting us know.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can do in pre-production, and then when it goes live, it either works or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, you just have to troubleshoot and figure it out on the fly. So I really appreciate the honest feedback. With that being said, let's get right to it. Okay, Jeremy.
Let's do it.
Where are you from, and when did you get started on your musical journey?
Oh, man. Whew. Okay, so where am I from? I was actually originally born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I didn't stay there very, very long. I left as soon as I graduated high school, which maybe some people would think that was very long, but not me. I've lived a lot of life since then.
I believe it.
So I was born there. I went to school in Boston, and then soon after I graduated from school, I moved out to LA and did the thing out there. So the second part of that question was, how did I get my start?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about this, and I'm going to really try to keep all of my answers really short as possible. The shortest answer I can possibly give is the 80s popular sitcom Alf.
Okay. I like it. I like where this is going.
I'm sort of not lying. No, Alf played the saxophone, if anybody in here remembers.
Uh-huh.
And that was the first instrument I really wanted to play, believe it or not. So when it came time... I know, I'm laughing too. When it came time in school to pick instruments, my first choice was saxophone. And then my second choice was to play drums because of that really cool military beat. There, ever since I was a kid, I had always wanted to join the Army.
Uh-huh.
And I always wanted to learn how to do that. Is it okay if I play? Is that going to screw anything up? Okay. I really wanted to learn how to do that. I always wanted to learn like how to play that beat or something like that, and ultimately 100,000 other kids wanted to play the saxophone. So I ended up having to play drums, and, but it was the best thing ever for me because, I was always kind of a creative kid, and, music was, I'm sure, as you can relate to, being a creative, having to like sit in school and listen to the teacher and stuff like that just doesn't fly sometimes.
Exactly.
Your brain just goes in a million different places, and that's me to a T. I'm still very ADD, and so music was the only thing that ever really was able to like center me. And drums also provided this really cool outlet that I have, which is like, I love like tinkering and building things and doing that kind of thing. And like, when you look at a drum set, it just looks like a giant erector set, if you look at it at that level, and to me, it's like, I've always been a big fan of the gear, and then like, like
Same.
making everything the right angle and like that kind of thing. So that always kind of like was attractive to me. So
what about being as efficient as possible, setting up and tearing down? Are you a nerd when it comes to that too?
About efficiency?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm more a nerd about how fast I can do it than I am about being efficient. But I think those two things probably go hand in hand, right? So like,
so.
I break my hardware down pretty much all the way because I have we were talking about earlier, nobody else knew this, but I have a smaller hardware bag and I have a lot of lightweight hardware. So when I travel to gigs, I'm not getting any younger. So I like having that lightweight hardware, but I try to fold it down as small as possible. So I guess in that way, I'm a Pearl guy. I play Pearl drums and I use Pearl hardware. And Pearl makes some really efficient hardware when it comes to like breaking down and getting real small. So
okay, awesome. So Alf. It all started with Alf. Who would have thought? That is awesome. So you said that you went to college in Boston?
Yes.
And so I know you attended Berklee College of Music.
That's right.
And you studied under some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So can you tell me who were your favorite professors and what were some of your key takeaways going to college there?
I guess I'm only going to be able to like pick a few because I have so many. I have so many like just life-changing experiences from working with the Berklee professors and people in the drum department who are both still there, or one or two of them have actually passed away since I graduated in 2003. The biggest influence that I had when I was at Berklee was definitely Dave DiCenzo. If I could just tell a little side story about Dave DiCenzo. So my first semester, when I was there, you have to take, if you're, no matter what your major is, you have to take, I think, at least 2 semesters of instrumental lessons. So if you're even a music business major, you have to go take lessons for 2 semesters, and then you stop, and then you just go deal with, paperwork or whatever music business people do. But for me, because I was doing like drum performance and that kind of thing, I knew I was going to have to take at least 6 semesters of music. So your first semester, you don't get to pick who your professor was. You're the low man on the totem pole, the freshman, and so you just get tossed into whomever's available. And I'm not going to mention the name of the teacher that I got, but he's a very well-known teacher, and he's very, he's lauded as being one of the best professors at Berklee. That's great. Wasn't my experience. That teacher that I had didn't seem to really care about me, what I wanted, what I needed. I don't need to go on. But
do you feel like they were just trying to basically not really customize their teaching to what you wanted, and they were just kind of giving you the regular course, and like they tried to feed everybody?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Yeah, and probably more accurate than anything. But yeah, so I was telling Aaron the story last night when we hung out. My first couple lessons that I had with this professor, all the lessons were only a half an hour long, and he would show up 15 minutes late with a coffee in his hand. So like he did the millennial thing before there were millennials, and he was like, he'd show up late. He's like, oh, I got this coffee, so I'm late. That's why I'm on late. And then he would show up and be like, cool, man. Can you just play some paradiddles? And I had just come off of marching drumline and doing drum corps and that kind of stuff, and I was like do the thing, and he's just like, oh yeah, that's faster than I can play him. He's like, okay, so do them like this, zappa dappa 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 dappa. I was like, okay, and so I did the thing. He's like, cool, man, just work on that and come back next week. I was like, what?
So work on doing it slower.
Yeah, which I understand now, being older, maybe there was some validity to what he was asking me to do. You don't want to drive a car that only goes 99 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe I was just being, like an obnoxious, 19-year-old kid and just trying to show off how fast I can play paradiddles.
Yeah.
But it left a bad taste in my mouth with that teacher. So I had to endure a whole semester of this guy not really giving a rip about me or my process or anything like that, or really making me a better drummer. And so Berklee hosts this thing once a year called Drum Week. And what they do during Drum Week is they have all of these like touring professionals or really big like solo drummers come in, and there's usually like one big concert every night of the week. And it happened to be one of the nights in the Performance Center, they had Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers there.
Sweet.
And
I love Chad.
yeah, Chad's great. Chad's amazing. Side note, did you ever see the Modern Drummer Festival with Chad Smith, where he goes up on stage and he's like, I'm going to show you guys something you've never seen or you haven't seen all day. And he just sits down and just he does that, and there's this like clock ticking down behind him, and he does it for like 5 minutes.
Yes.
And doesn't vary, doesn't play any fills, just plays straight, never speeds up, never slows down.
That's awesome. That's
why Chad Smith is great.
That's so him.
So Chad Smith came to the school, and he was doing his thing. He was playing along the tracks, and at the same time, there was another Berklee professor who was sharing the stage with him, and it happened to be Dave DiCenzo. Now, Dave's drum set was very much like this setup here. It was just a kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, and a ride cymbal. There was no floor tom. And when it came time for the two of them to double drum and do some soloing back and forth, Dave DiCenzo, my people out there, did things on just a bass drum and a snare drum and a hi-hat and a ride cymbal that I've never heard any other drummer to this day ever replicate.
Man.
He just like played circles around that he made it sound like a 10,000 piece kit. And it wasn't about making Chad Smith look bad. There was no ego involved. It was just, that's Dave being Dave. That's how he plays drums.
Yeah.
And I went, yo, that's the guy I got to go play with.
Yep.
So I ended up taking 7 more semesters of lessons with just Dave DiCenzo.
Wow.
And every time I would sit in that room with him, he just had some other little piece of wisdom that he would just throw at me. And it just blew my mind every day, you know? So Dave DiCenzo was definitely a huge influence on me.
I just started following him last night after our conversation. So
good, man.
I'm excited to dig into him and his teaching. And
yes, please. Anybody out there who's a drummer who's listening, go check out Dave DiCenzo. Seriously, it's life-changing. His stuff's great.
Awesome. So you also mentioned that you took a double bass class with Mike Mangini.
Yep.
And for those of you that don't know, Mike plays for Dream Theater now.
He's the current drummer for Dream Theater, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that class went? That sounds really fun and interesting to me.
Yeah, it was probably one of the crazier classes that I ever took. Berkeley kind of has this weird catalog of classes, class titles, class descriptions. But, you know, when you're a super music nerd or a super drumming nerd like I am, and everybody else that was there at that school is, or was too when I was there, all of these classes just make sense to you. Like I had a class called Linear Time Feels and Phrasing, which is just like how to play linear drums. You know, and there's classes on chart interpretation. There's classes on, I took a class called Scoring for Percussion, where I learned how to write for all the percussion instruments and their ranges and that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
But double bass drumming was one of those classes that, you know, it was basically a 0.5 credit lab class. I just took it because I wanted to do a class with Mike Mangini because I knew this man was insane.
Yeah.
Not just as a drummer, but as a person, as a human being, he's insane. Certifiably. There we go. English.
Well, you kind of have to be to like play. I feel like your personality also comes out on the drums.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And if you go and watch Mike Mangini play now, like if you go and like watch a video of him on YouTube, like something current in the last 5 years, it's a lot more calm than how he used to be, like maybe back in the 90s or the early 2000s. He
simmered down a little bit.
Yeah, he definitely did. But yeah, he would show up to class like wearing a Hooters tank top and a tutu. I'm not even kidding. Like he would literally do that.
Wow.
He would show up and I remember there was times where we would be listening to some like crazy progressive metal with some intense double bass drumming, and he would just sit there and just he would like let it play for like half a second, and it would be like he like hit play and it'd go brrr, and he'd stop and he'd be like, yeah, you guys hear that? He's like, and in his thick Boston accent, he's like, the only way you're gonna get that is if you use your hip flexes. You gotta move your hip flexes. You gotta move your whole leg to play double bass drums. And that was probably the biggest thing that I got from him, because the rest of the class was just me cracking up and him being silly. So, but yeah,
well worth it.
But I remember there was this one time, again, this is just me talking way too long, but I got to tell the story. There was this time where he made us go through all of the PAS rudiments with our feet. We had to play all the flam rudiments, all the drag rudiments, all the roll rudiments, the diddle rudiments, paradiddles. Like we had to play all of that stuff with our feet. And I remember I had a little practice drum set in my apartment. And I sat there once for like 3 or 4 hours. I'm not even exaggerating. 3 or 4 hours going through that sheet one at a time, just practicing every rudiment with my feet, fast or slow, fast to slow. And when I stood up, I almost fell over because I didn't realize like the damage I had done to my hips and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God.
You had to take an ibuprofen after that.
Yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, it was crazy. That gave me a lot of foot independence.
I bet.
Just working on that stuff.
So even though you don't play a lot of double bass now, I'm sure that you learned a lot from that class, and you take that with you forever.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny because when you end up playing rock and pop drums, you end up not using a lot of that stuff, and it helps you in the sense that it helps you just be able to keep your limbs in time. Just a big thing. I think if any drummer out there can just keep all 4 of their limbs in time with each other, like you're gonna sound like a professional drummer. You know. And, you know, sitting down and just playing rudiments with my feet definitely helped with that. It helped me a lot with being able to, like, you know, a lot of people, I think the last thing drummers learn is how to use their left foot if they're a right-handed drummer, how to use their hi-hat foot. And if you can use your hi-hat foot to help you keep time or keep better time, like, you know, you're doing the job of a percussionist and a drum set player in a band, you know, keeping time with, you know, you go to the ride cymbal, you keep time in your left foot to sound like a shaker, you know, but not just like keeping it straight with eighth notes, just maybe playing upbeats or just downbeats or playing a different rhythm, you know, with that left foot, it really adds a lot to a feel.
That's something I still struggle with. And, you know, it's just, it reminds you that you're always working on things and there's never an end goal to playing an instrument.
Tell me about it.
You're always trying to improve and get better, and that's just one of my things that I'm always concentrating on. Like, how can I get my left foot to be better and not just keep time, just like you said, but also add to the groove. And I've seen like Dave Elich say like, well, if you have your left foot that keeps on going, if it's not really doing anything to the groove, then why are you doing it? Cool.
Right.
Like, it's got to serve a purpose at the same time. So I also think about that as well, because there's times where I am just keeping time with my left foot, and I'm like, this is working. But then I also think musically, if it's not really adding to the song, maybe I can lay off a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I 100% agree with what you said and what Elich says, of course. But to me, it's always, you know, when you're making decisions as a drummer, you can't come at it from an ego perspective. You have to think about it like, how am I serving the music? How am I serving the band? How am I serving the artist by what I'm choosing to play?
Number one.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So if you're just doing your left foot because you can do your left foot,
or you're just trying to get better at doing the left foot,
well, okay. You know, if you're trying to get better at your left foot, then, you know, hang out in your cool studio and practice that. But when you're on stage in front of people, if it's really not serving anything, then don't do it. You know, sometimes just having that left foot going while you're playing other fills, like sometimes it just gets in the way. You know, you have to be able to, like me, for instance, if I'm on the ride and I'm going to play a fill to transition into a verse groove or something like that, when I start the fill, I'll splash the hi-hats for like an extra crash, just to kind of like fill out the sound in there.
I like that.
While I'm playing, you know, so while I'm playing the fill, just so there's just something else adding to the transition, because when you close that hi-hat, then when you go back to like a verse, when you close that sound ends, you know, the sustain ends, and it kind of adds just another like button, another period to the end of your sentence.
Time for the verse. New segment.
So as drummers, you know, it's very easy for us to just like, you know, play all the licks, play all the grooves, play all the, you know, play all the patterns, play all the combinations that we've learned, and just want to put them everywhere. But you have to show restraint, and left foot hi-hat definitely is one of those things where you just have to make good choices and you have to show restraint sometimes.
Agreed. Good stuff. Hey, thanks everyone that's watching. Really means a lot. If you have any questions or want us to talk about any particular topics, please chime in. This is more than just a two-way conversation, so feel free to chime in.
Ask me anything.
Yes. Well, so speaking of Berkeley, what advice would you give any young musicians out there that are thinking about going to college for music?
How serious are you about music? That's the first thing I would ask. And, you know, I've spent time enough teaching high school students to know that that's the most important question to ask, is how serious are you about music? Are you the kind of person who is a casual musician? Are there other things in your life that you think or that you feel are genuinely more important to you? You know, if it is, great. Like there's nothing wrong with being a musician and not going to music school. But if you want to live, eat, sleep, breathe, eat music, I think I said eat twice, but that's okay. I'm hungry.
We're hungry.
Yeah, we're hungry in here. You know, if that's your goal, and to be around other people who have the same drive to be as best as they can at all times at being a musician, then you should probably go to music school. That's just my opinion on it. You know, you can't, I mean, you have to consider the debt that you go into, you know, going to any school for any job. And, you know, music is one of those things where there is absolutely positively, you know, no definite employment that you could possibly get by having a music degree or having a performance degree.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, in the real world, it doesn't mean anything, but your goal, and you have to keep this in mind, all the naysayers out there, when you go to music school, your goal isn't to just pay all of that money to get a piece of paper that says you can play music. You know, that's kind of just a really bad way of thinking about it. The whole point of being in a music school is basically, you know, it's like a 4-year boot camp. You know, where else can you go and just do nothing but focus on music for 4 years? What would that do to you as a player? And not only that, you know, if these days, if I were to sit down and say, okay, well, you know, I could spend 4 years just watching YouTube videos. Okay, maybe, but like, you know, you're not going to get the live feedback with a human being in the room.
And that's key.
That's key, man. It really is. The opinions, the experiences, you know, all of that stuff that all of these teachers, these professors have, you know, they're trying to give you all of that information. And you're not going to get that by just hitting rewind on a video.
Yep. And you're getting it in real time.
Getting it in real time. Yeah.
Instead of just building off your bad habits.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too. Like, you have no idea if you have bad habits or not. So if you go to music school or even if you just study privately with a really good teacher, notice I said good teacher. If you study privately, like, you know, you just need that feedback. You know, go play with another drummer. Like, if Aaron and I just got together and just played together, I'd be like, Aaron, check this out. And he'd be like, oh, Jeremy, like, you're really choked up on that stick and you're really tight. I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that.
You did drum corps, didn't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, that's another story. But anyway.
Sorry, that's inside.
Yeah. Insider humor. Sorry.
Also, shout out to my beautiful wife, Mindy. She's out there
Killing
switching the cameras and making sure everything sounds good. So if something's off, you can blame her.
I wish everybody could see the sloth and candy cane blanket she is currently staying warm with.
Wrapped up in.
Yeah,
cool. I'm sweating, but apparently she's nice and comfy. So you said you recently moved here from Los Angeles.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How has it been adjusting to a new city and trying to fit into the Cincinnati music scene? No
matter what I did in my head to prepare to be back in the Midwest and not be in a music city, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, because I guess there is a vibrant scene here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, but it's not known for being a music city, so yeah, that's fair.
The quote unquote industry isn't here.
Yeah.
So so it's no matter what I did to prepare myself, reality didn't meet expectations. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just maybe I had in my head that something completely different was going to happen. And it just made for more adjusting that I needed to do in my brain about, you know, the normal things that I would do in LA to, to try to meet other people and to get other gigs and to, try to push my career forward. Those kinds of things just kind of don't happen here. And again, I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. It's just something different. I just had to kind of get over that a little bit and just kind of get into, okay, well, here I can't just go talk to somebody, go hang out with them, and then maybe, that relationship's going to evolve and then I'm going to get a tour out of it.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to go talk to this engineer, befriend this guitar player who has a studio, and maybe I'll go end up recording with them and doing a bunch of cool stuff, I tried that kind of method when I first got here and failed miserably. So now I'm just kind of like, reevaluating, but a lot of my work is still just with people that I know back in LA and that kind of stuff. So,
well, yeah. I mean, that also makes sense. You've only been here a couple years.
Yeah. I've only been here 2 years.
And that's not a very long time to be in any new city. And maybe Cincinnati is a 5-year town.
5-year town.
Never thought
that should be the slogan on the sign when you pull up on the freeway.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, the 5-year town.
I love it. I should do marketing for the.
Yes, you should.
So you would say there was a little bit of a culture shock then?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. First of all, everything you ever heard about LA on the news is wrong. Just going to say, But I will say
no
that
smog out there.
yeah, LA for sure. Wow, I just sounded super Californian just then. LA for sure, like chilled me out.
Mm-hmm.
It totally chilled me out. So much to the sense that I'm a big into just whatever happens, and you just roll with it and move on to the next thing, and I just don't hold on too tightly to anything really. And, it's going to be what it's going to be. So, if I go start doing a gig, and it just ends up being kind of lame or just kind of sucks for, any number of reasons,
yep.
I'll just roll with it, just make the best of it and enjoy the things that are cool about it, and maybe not focus on the things that were bad about it, because that would just put you down a path of, being super bummed all the time.
Super bummer. Yeah.
Not cool. But, so the biggest culture shock to me was just, to survive in LA as a sideman, you have to learn a certain level of professionalism,
mm-hmm.
which to me are things that are super obvious, like show up on time, like early is on time is late is fired.
Yep.
You have to know that. You have to show up prepared. And what does prepared mean? It means those tracks inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what your role is going to be in that gig at all times, and you go above and beyond to make sure that you know what your role is, and how best you can add benefit to that artist. What is your role?
Mm-hmm. Before the rehearsal.
Oh man, it has to happen. My philosophy is always, practice at home, perform at rehearsal.
Yep.
And nobody is going to get anywhere by practicing at rehearsal. Okay. You need to be putting big picture stuff together at a rehearsal. So that's just a small part of it, but that level of professionalism is something that I, haven't necessarily come across here in Cincinnati. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm talking down about it. It's just different. That's all.
Yep.
And I just have to get used to that. But
it's not as cutthroat here,
in my experience in LA too, I can't speak for Nashville because I'm not a Nashville guy, but LA, it's only cutthroat if you make it that way. Mm-hmm. To me, it was always just like hang with all the drummers, hang with all the engineers, hang with all the guitar players. The more people the more fun you're having, the more likely it is you're going to get called. So I'm never thinking about how can I steal that guy's gig, mm-hmm. or how can I play that fill better than that guy. It's never about that. It's always just like, networking, having a good time, being friends with everybody. So, I don't know. Do you think it's cutthroat here in Cincinnati?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I haven't run into that either.
At least that's just, that's my experience.
Yeah.
I've never really had a situation that I can think of where someone else was shooting for my gig. Mm-hmm. And even if they were, so be it. That's their journey, and I'm just doing me. And, so yeah, I think it's pretty chill. There is a small group of people that do it full time, mm-hmm. and it's a small city, so you get to know the local musicians really quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, almost everybody is really nice and really cool.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you get some drama every once in a while, and
anywhere you go, you're gonna get that.
Exactly. But largely, everyone's nice. And people are just stoked to be able to play music, and that's great. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I also feel like because it isn't like a music city, there aren't a lot of huge artists here, so we're not trying to gun. We're not gunning to play for the next arena rock guy. And
sure.
If you get a gig over somebody else, you're not. That's not going to be the matter of putting food on the table.
But are people putting you up, lauding you when you get those gigs? Are they yeah, Aaron, way to go, man, nice job? Are other musicians supportive here of other musicians? That would be that's the thing that I've been questioning here.
It's harder to find.
Yeah.
There are a couple people that come to mind. Matt Waters is one of them. He also has a weekly show where it's like a Beats and Brews, but without it being so drummer focused. Mm-hmm. That dude is awesome, super talented, and whether you're a drummer, a bass player, an engineer, whatever, if you play music or you're in the industry and you're a cool hang, Matt will invite you on a show.
That's a pro right there.
Yes.
That's somebody who's going to get gigs. It's like, I've always felt that it's like, if you're supporting your fellow musicians, number one, that's a great way to network. If you're proud of your fellow musicians for doing good, that's a thing here that I'm not experiencing a lot. And I've been playing a lot of gigs. Wow, that sounded conceited, but I've been playing a bunch of gigs here, and I don't see a lot of musicians coming out and just supporting each other. I don't know if that's just because everybody just gigs on the weekends, but I feel like in LA, that was always the thing. It was like, if I had a friend that was like playing drums and something, I would go out and check him out. And afterwards I'd buy him a drink and be like, dude, that was sweet. Nice job. Yep. And I really, if that kind of thing exists here in Cincinnati, I would love to be a part of that.
There needs to be more of it. Yeah. 100%. I think Matt Waters is awesome at cultivating that. Besides
Matt Waters, hit me up.
His show, he also does a monthly residency at Latitudes Bar and Bistro, where he brings singer-songwriters, and he'll play, and then they'll play, and so they have a platform to
They do
share
like a
new
round
songs.
table?
Yeah.
Cool.
Noah Smith has the Crooner Circus. I think it's the third Thursday of every month at Big Ash Brewing. That is another really cool thing that's going on in Cincinnati, where you go there and it's a bunch of musicians. It's also singer-songwriter round, and it's kind of an on and off night. So you get to network in genuine ways. You get to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet. See who's writing songs, and as a drummer, that's really cool because who hires drummers?
Songwriters.
Exactly.
Boom.
So it's been really cool going to those. I know there's other things in the city, but those are the first two things that come to mind, and two people that are in Cincinnati cultivating genuine relationships and genuine ways and trying to build the local community up.
Yeah. By the way, if there's any drummers out there who are going to, either hear this live or hear this after it's been recorded, if you just want to hang and not compete, just like hit me and Aaron up. Like, I would love to have like a once a month hang where we just get together, have coffee, complain about gigs, and talk
That's
nerdy drum stuff. That would be sweet. Hit us up, man. Yeah, I'm super down.
I would love to have some sort of coffee or brewery hang once a month.
Oh man, that'd be sick.
If we could figure out a way to cultivate that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, every year in LA, there's a big thing during the NAMM show called the Drummers Hang, and like it's all just like the hugest, biggest industry guys that come together, and like you're in there trying to shake hands and meet people, but like it's just cool being around those kinds of people because you just get to talk shop, and just doing that once a year is kind of cool. But if you have a small local group of people that like to hang out and just nerd out about drumming, like just it's super cool. Why not support each other? It just makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why I like doing this.
Yeah, this is great.
In my mind, it's not a competition. We're all doing the same thing. For the most part in Cincinnati, there's enough work for everybody. And even if there wasn't, I wouldn't play ball that way. It's just not my style. Yeah. And
it's kind of dirty.
Yeah. So this has been an awesome tool to get to know people and build friendships, and so that goes a lot further in my book.
You guys see how cool Aaron is? Come on.
I'm the coolest.
Why wouldn't you want to hang with Aaron?
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Hey, thanks everybody that's still hanging out with us. Once again, if you have any questions, especially for Jeremy, be sure to pitch it his way. Off topic, since you're new here. Skyline. What are your thoughts? And remember the target market that's watching.
Why does this come up all the time in my life?
We don't have much, okay?
Since I moved to Cincinnati, everyone's just like, "You've never had Skyline?" And I'm like even Mindy is reacting right now. She's like, "You've never had Skyline?" Yeah, I've never had Skyline.
There should be a camera on Mindy.
Yeah, there should be. You should have a Mindy cam.
Yeah, it's like when radio shows have like a camera on the research person.
They can see her cool blanket. I've never had it, and it's not because I'm like, ew, gross, or like, oh, I'm a vegan. It's nothing like that.
Are you a vegan?
No.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I would probably pound some Skyline, but I've never, okay, I shouldn't say that.
Never wanted diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
I usually have like an hour drive home after gigs, and it's probably not a good idea. You know, you don't want to stop at a rest stop at 3 a.m. You never know.
So you've actually never had Skyline?
Never. I got to say, though, I make some pretty bomb-ass chili at home.
Is it soupy?
No. Is it on noodles? No, it's not. Is that the Skyline thing? They do it on noodles?
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, it's different.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. I would try it. Have you guys ever had, like in like Japanese cuisine, have you ever had curry on spaghetti noodles?
I don't think so. That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. It's probably a lot like Skyline, just except you don't get diarrhea.
Well, no, you do. I'm sure.
You do.
You should try it sometime, especially after a few drinks. Have
do
your
I?
fiance drive you guys to Skyline at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Get a couple cheese conies and a 3-way. You'll be set.
Is a coney a hot dog?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm super lame. Sorry, guys.
No.
Sorry, all you Cincy people.
It's
Has anybody here had In-N-Out?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Animal style, baby.
Yes. Okay. I'm not that cool. Sorry.
Do you like In-N-Out?
I've had better burgers. Sorry, California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, for like a fast food joint, I think it's pretty stellar.
Well, it's good because everything they do is fresh. It's never frozen. They'll tell you that. And all their French fries, like when you're pulling around, like to go into the drive-through, you see there's somebody sitting there just like crunching potatoes, making French fries right there. It's cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
Any chance I get to have In-N-Out, I'm always stoked. I think in March we were in Arizona.
Yeah.
And there was one in walking distance, and
you know why they're not nationwide is because they only want to be close to the farms where they get their beef, because they're that like anal about it. Yeah, they're like their beef is never frozen, so as soon as it's processed, it comes right to the store.
I'm down with that because if we had a In-N-Out close to us, it wouldn't be a healthy thing for me. So we'll just
trust me. This right here is the 2 a.m. McDonald's run after a gig.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I'm not hungry, but I just want McDonald's.
I feel that. Are you a Waffle House guy after a gig?
Aaron,
All-Star.
I've never been to a Waffle House. Mindy, I heard how hard you just hit your forehead.
Short. What?
I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with me being like Cincinnati Midwest. It's more just like I've just never had the opportunity. If I went to a Waffle House, I'm sure I'd just pound some waffles and it'd be great. But
okay, after a gig when it's like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., have Chris Sarvak. That was our thing. After some of the gigs that we played, we would just go to Waffle House.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's not a house; it's a home.
I heard people just get stabbed there all the time, so I was always like, "Oh, maybe I should." And you're like, "Oh, it's part of the flavor."
Yeah, it really is.
It enhances the mustard.
Yeah. Okay, enough food questions.
Okay.
Because this is just disappointing talking food with you.
I'm sorry, man. I'm not boring. I just haven't been to these places.
Oh, this is hilarious. Okay, so who all are you playing with in Cincinnati, and what remote projects do you have going on right now?
Oh, man. Okay, so who am I playing with in Cincinnati? I can honestly say that I'm extraordinarily fortunate to have gotten hooked up with Michelle Robinson and the Michelle Robinson Band. So when I first moved here, I took like basically roughly the first year to get my studio set up in my home and start, getting everything dialed in to do remote sessions. And I was like, you know what? I need to get out there and start playing live. And so I made one post on the Cincinnati Musicians Facebook group.
Yeah.
If you're familiar.
Can be a pretty depressing place, but you actually found good work from it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't go there anymore.
There's no need.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. But anyway, I just made a post. I just kind of threw a Hail Mary out there. I was just like, hey guys, I just moved here from LA. This is my pedigree. This is everybody that I've played for. If anybody's out there that needs a touring drummer, a recording drummer, somebody to do fly dates, tour dates, anything like that. And, I got I got a bunch of hits like immediately. I got a bunch of people interested, but a lot of it was stuff that I wasn't used to or not prepared for. It was like, oh yeah, can you practice 3 nights a week in my dad's basement
for free?
Yeah, for free, and we have no shows booked. I'm like, that might not be the gig for me.
Sounds tempting.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that gig wouldn't be worth it or not cool or anything, but just just not something I can do right now. I need to make money. So I was contacted by Michelle, and she said they were looking for a new drummer, and she was like, "Can you send me a recording of you playing these couple songs?" So I set up my camera, I played through the songs, and sent her the thing, and she was just like, "Yeah, this is great, let's do it." So
that's awesome.
Yeah, a month later, she gave me like 90 tracks or something like that to learn. I had never played a lick of country music in my life, but I did all the research so I wouldn't fake it.
Yep.
And learned all the tunes and did the thing. And so now I'm playing with her. She's very, very active. She has a really, really heavy schedule, which is great for me. I'm a full-time musician. This is all I do. So that's great for me. I have the time and the ability to meet her demands for the schedule. It's actually made it hard for me to be able to play with anybody else because their schedule is so demanding. That's one thing that kind of tripped me up about Cincy is that you guys don't have weeknight shows in LA. I mean, you could be in a rock band, an original rock band, and play any night of the week.
Yep.
Out here, those opportunities just don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody like me who's used to playing with multiple artists, I'm only able to really play with the one, and I'm not really able to take any other gigs on, unfortunately.
It's a good problem to have, though.
I guess, yeah, you can look at it. I mean, I would rather be making more money, playing live and doing more stuff a week. But playing with Michelle is very rewarding, on a social level, on an emotional level, on a musical level. Awesome. So, yeah, it's very satisfying. And then the second part of that question was
your remote projects.
Okay. So yeah, I also provide remote drum tracking for singer-songwriters or artists who, need drums for the record. If you've ever sat down to write a song and you've just used the MIDI drum loops that come with, Ableton or Logic or whatever, and that you're not going to eventually put that out, that you need a live drummer or you need professional sounding drums. That's what I do. I go and I replace those drum tracks, or I add my own tracks to that. I also work for a bunch of my friends back in LA are music directors for like major touring acts. And I've been very, blessed to be able to record live drum tracks for touring artists who aren't using live bands. So I've done a lot of that work, and yeah, so that's basically the kind of work that I've been doing.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So between the live work that you do, mostly weekend warrior stuff with Michelle.
Yeah.
And that's just because we're in Cincinnati.
That's fair, yeah.
And so between the live stuff, the studio stuff, and I know you also do provide lessons, what does like a typical week look like for your schedule?
Now, I have a long history of being a teacher. I was actually a high school percussion director. I did that for a long time, and we don't need to go into that unless we have time for that. But actually, here in Cincinnati, I've not taught one lesson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have no students, and to be honest, to be perfectly honest, and this might be a surprise to some people that might view this later, I burned out hard on teaching, and I wasn't teaching drum set. Drum set was always a component of what I was teaching in the high school, but I was teaching drumline and orchestral percussion and symphonic band percussion and a little bit of jazz band here or there. And I just kind of burned out on it. So part of me moving here to set up a remote recording studio was me kind of getting away from teaching lessons.
Gotcha.
And I'm at the point now where I feel like I might be over it now, and I might be back into a certain place where I feel like the energy that I could give a student would be beneficial.
Yeah.
because
That's key.
That was a big thing for me, deciding to leave a teaching job, a really good paying teaching job, was that, you know, I was just getting so burned out that I just felt like, you know, there's other people out there who can provide more benefit to these students than me right now.
Yeah.
And I just feel like my energy is just slowing down with this whole thing. So maybe it's time to walk away and hand it off to somebody else. These kids deserve good. You know, they deserve really good instruction. And if I'm not the person who's able to give it to them at that point because I'm just not feeling it anymore, then I need to step away. I need to not just be there for, you know, a money grab or something like that, you know.
That's really respectful, and that's great. I think you've made the right decision by doing that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of students that I teach on a weekly basis, and it's really fulfilling. But then when the busy season hits, I just simply don't have a lot of time to invest.
Yeah.
And I could probably squeeze it in, but I feel like I'd be doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy that's just doing it for the money grab.
Yeah.
Oh, I can squeeze this in, but what I like to do is prep before the lessons and make sure that what we're going through is right for the student and is tailored to them. And if I can't do that, I don't want to waste their time and their money. And so typically, like in the summer months, like I take it off the table.
Yeah.
And then when the winter comes around, or I just hit like a couple months of being a little slow, then I'll reach back out to them and things work out. But
I've been keeping a list on my phone, and I started this list when I was at Berkeley. Back in 2003, so do the math. That was 800,000 years ago. I've been keeping a list of like euphemisms and sayings that are really important to me, and I would always pass those along to my students. And one of those things that I would kind of drop on them, and it kind of had to do with: Are you practicing? Are you preparing? Are you practicing the material that I'm giving you at home? And are you preparing properly? And without just going, "Are you practicing?" to the student, I would just drop this. I'd be like, "Look, we make time for the things that are important to us, and if I'm going to teach that to a student, I have to live that as well." And for me, it became more important for me to be a touring sideman, a drummer, a recording drummer, a session player, than it was to be a teacher. And to me, when I reached that conclusion, it was just time to go.
I respect that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So as a freelance musician, we experience many peaks and valleys. And this industry can be very feast or famine.
Yeah.
And so I thought this was a fun question is, what are the biggest and smallest shows you've played?
Yeah. Okay. The biggest show I've ever played to date was I toured once with this world music artist from Jordan, the country Jordan, and I went and did a tour with him in Jordan. Wow. This was back. This is a while ago, but so that the biggest show we did with him was what was at the end of that, and it was in the Amman Arena. It's probably not called that, but and it was me on drums, a bass player that I was friends with from Berkeley, and the Amman Symphony Orchestra, and then he was a pianist.
Cool.
And we played for probably like I think 11 or 12,000 people, and
Awesome.
the Queen and the Princess of Jordan were there.
Whoa.
Yeah, they were like sitting right behind me, and I felt bad because my back was to them the whole time. So, but that was really cool.
No
We played in the
pressure.
round.
No
yeah.
pressure.
No pressure. Come on.
That's really
It's
badass.
just another gig. And the smallest gig I ever played was definitely in LA in a club playing to nothing but bartenders. But those bartenders were just like, that was super rad.
Yeah.
So I was
private
like,
show.
yeah, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
But it goes to show you, like, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, if you're playing to 11 or 12,000 people, or you're playing to nobody, you're playing to the staff, like, you know, you still go up there and you still do the best you can.
Yep.
You know,
And I'd rather play to an attentive crowd than just a bunch of people that are there that
they're just walking through.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes these festivals that we play with, they have the stages set up in the dumbest places.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we'll put the stage right next to the walkway to the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? Everybody's just walking by. It's like,
yep. They don't care as long as they have their either fried corn or whatever this.
Fried corn, fried butter,
Yeah.
fried Oreos.
Yeah. That's that's more like it.
Have you ever tried fried butter,
No, I haven't.
Mindy? Yeah, it sounds gross, doesn't it? Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay.
How is it?
I've never tried it. I've never tried Skyline.
You haven't
Come
even
on.
had Waffle House. Who am I kidding?
Right. Do they serve fried butter at Waffle House? Please
I'm
tell
sure
me
if
no.
you ask the right people, they could do that.
Like, if I give you $50, can you just give me a stick of butter fried?
No doubt about it. They would do that in a heartbeat.
That's disgusting.
I'm sure they would.
They do it for less than 50.
Yep. Okay, so what time is it? I just want to
Time for more questions.
9:12. Okay. Yeah, time for more questions.
Don't feel bad about my time. I'm good. Let's
Okay,
keep going.
cool. I just want to make sure we're all good here.
Yeah.
So with everything that you have going on, how do you prioritize your schedule between the different projects you have?
Okay, so this is actually pretty easy. I only do recording projects Monday through Thursday. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't do them on the weekends. On the weekends, I like to just like relax and just like chill out, before a gig. Cause I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything, but we're almost always gigging on Fridays and Saturdays.
And those are long days. They're probably at least an 8-hour day by the time you drive there, you play the gig. You come
sometimes
back.
longer depending on where you're playing.
Yeah. Sometimes they can be 18-hour days.
Yeah, sometimes you have to get there at 3:00 and not do anything and not get fed.
Exactly.
We know what we're talking about.
Yep,
But anyway,
yep.
Sorry, local issues. So I'll only record on those days, and I'm going to be honest, I don't start my day until 11 o'clock. I'll wake up in the morning, and I'll just kind of like, come downstairs, have some coffee. I'll catch up on a podcast or something like that. And then I'll just kind of think about like what I can do to be productive then with the rest of the day. If I have a remote session scheduled, that's the thing I think about next is like, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to start thinking about that remote session. If I don't have something scheduled, I'll just go down, I'll go down to my studio and try to work on something that's going to help me drive more business. I'm actually, I actually kind of moonlight as a songwriter myself. And if I'm really inspired, I'll just go downstairs and I'll just start writing a song.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got tons of stuff out there. And I'm actually in a duo project with a buddy of mine back in California called Option Command, but it's opt.cmd, and it's a synthwave project. And my buddy has this giant collection of vintage synths from the 80s.
That's badass.
And so we just set them up and we just play chords and melody lines and stuff like that, and we just write songs. And
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Man, I love 80s drums. I bet you
My
have
guy.
a field day of just like finding different techniques in your studio on it, like how to sound as 80s as possible.
With that synthwave project, I don't play drums.
What?
Yeah.
Do you program the drums?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a bunch of vintage drum machines. He's got like a vintage Lin. He's got an 808, a 909, a 707.
Okay.
He's got all of that stuff. And I've learned how to program all of those analog machines.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, I write the drum parts but I also write, the chords. I usually come up with we together, come up with the chord structure and the melodies and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's nice to be involved in a project where I'm not playing drums, to be honest.
I bet.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you've never played live with that project?
No. We basically said, so my buddy is a music director for some really, really, really big famous artists, and he'll go out on tour like 9 months out of the year. And so he's not available. So we honestly, when we went into the project, we knew his schedule. And so I'll fly back to LA and we'll work on music together when he's in town. And then I'll come back and then we send the music off to, somebody else. Neither of us sing. So we hire top line writers to come in and sing and write melodies. And, we'll do sessions back and forth, like that was great. Let's change that. Let's do that. And at the end of it, we have a song and we release it. So this is kind of a new thing with us. So we have 5. We have a 5-song EP that's out there on Spotify. It's on everything. Right now. But you can check it out. But yeah, we're surprised at the popularity that it's gained. It's garnered a lot of attention.
The 80s are coming back.
Well, the 80s have been back. I think it's the 90s now. I think we're seeing the aftermath of like the 90s come back. I mean, have you heard Demi Lovato's new record?
Yeah.
Mindy.
Yeah. Mindy's obsessed.
How 90s, early 2000s does that sound?
She's perfect.
It's like pop punk, right? It's full on pop punk. And that band she had with her, it's an all female band. They are killing.
I bet.
They are so good. So, I mean, that stuff, everything comes around in cycles.
I think, was it Alice's female guitarist? She's not playing with him.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry.
That's it.
I know a lot of people. I don't know those
thinking
people.
out loud.
But I mean,
Alice Cooper is who I meant, by the way.
Oh, I think you're right. Yes. I wasn't 100% sure who you meant by Alice.
I should have specified.
Oh, Alice Cooper.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
kidding.
Oh, that Alice. Gotcha. So Mindy says the first monthly drummer hang should obviously be at a Skyline or a Waffle House.
Yo.
I like that. And then Loretta says, "Oh, Jeremy, you definitely need to go to a Waffle House and get you some waffles. You don't know what you're missing."
Or maybe I do. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to say I've had a waffle before. And if this waffle is amazing, then I'm definitely missing out. But if it's like a waffle you can just make at home.
No. It's the atmosphere.
Okay.
You go to Waffle House for I don't mean to be kicking a dead horse, but you go to Waffle House for the atmosphere.
Okay. For
work.
I'm assuming like dirty floors and potential stabbings.
Yeah. Sticky floors.
Sticky floors, fights.
Yep.
Those 3 a.m. drunk fights.
Yes, the best.
You looked at my waffle the wrong way.
Don't be making eyes at my waffle.
Man, I've never been stabbed by a butter knife before. I'm sure it would hurt.
Man, so what are some of your favorite projects that you've been a part of live or in the studio?
Favorite projects? And
I'm assuming Option Command is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I love that project just because I get to do it with somebody who's one of my best friends for sure, and it's great because he and I are both full-time professional musicians, and we both have been around the block enough to know that what to expect from this kind of a project. We're not going like, oh, we're going to be world famous, it's going to be great. It's just like, oh, we're going to write some music, we're going to release some stuff, we're going to market it, people are going to listen to it, it'll be great.
Yeah, you're going to have fun with it.
And then if something happens from there, fine. But that's just we have our expectations set at that point, and it's really refreshing playing or being in a project with an artist that is my friend. There's just no other like baggage that goes with that.
Yeah.
Other favorite projects, I don't know. I've been involved with some really cool things over the years. I can't really pinpoint a favorite project. I can pinpoint some like favorite things that I've absolutely done. And I think that would probably be more a fair way to answer that.
Do tell.
Okay. So I kind of walked into that one, didn't I?
Yep.
A really cool thing when I was playing with the band WYO, WYO, if you go on my Instagram, you can probably see some, if you go scroll down and see some of the history of when I was playing with that band pre-COVID. We did some really, really cool stuff. Probably one of my favorite things that I did was we went to Wyoming for like 10 days or something like that. And we were just hanging with a film crew the whole time. And we just made a huge content cache and filmed 3 music videos. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was so much fun.
How was Wyoming?
Dude, Wyoming's great.
I've never been there before.
You've never been?
No.
Oh, you gotta go. No, it's super cool.
They've got a waffle barn. Have you ever been to the waffle barn?
No. Stop asking me about places I've never been. Have you ever been to a Wendy's? No. Okay, so the cool thing I think about Wyoming is just like the vast expanse of land. Like I'm an outdoors person. I love being outdoors. I love camping. I love hiking. I do that stuff all the time. And Wyoming is just one of those places where the outdoors is everywhere. I guess that kind of sounds stupid, but like, you know, you look out and it's just like, I want to hike that mountain. Yeah. Or you look across the meadow, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go swim in that river. Yeah. You know, it's just super cool. It's perfect for a place like me. There was many mornings where I knew we had like a 9 a.m. call to do some filming or something like that. And I would get up at 6 and I would just go walk and just do some trails. And, you know, we were in, I can't remember the name of the city. That's stupid. But anyway, it's like the biggest city in one of the biggest cities in Wyoming. It's a place where all the rich people go. Anyway, we were there, and the Snake River is the main river that runs through the valley. And like there was this long trail up and down the Snake River. I would just go walk that every morning, and it was cool.
Heck yeah, yeah. So, with all that being said, you've obviously been pretty busy as a full-time freelance musician. I know personally, every year seems to be a little bit different than the last. It's always kind of keeping us on our toes. We got to continue to adapt, whatever that may look like, whether it's social media or hitting a pandemic and learning how to do a Facebook Live. With,
how to do a podcast.
With 8 inputs and 4 different cameras. Or
you're knocking it out, though. You're doing great.
I appreciate it. Or like you pivoted. I mean, you moved from LA and then you bought a house in Ohio with a basement that you could build a studio in. Yeah. And so we all have to pivot to figure this whole thing out. So with that being said, what does 2023 look like for you? And are you already thinking about what you're going to do a little bit differently or your strategy?
Have you ever seen DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck diving into that giant vault and like swimming in the gold coins?
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
not going to be me. No, that's a really great question, man. I appreciate you asking that because it's making me think a little bit more because here we are in December and I haven't really set any 2023 goals.
Neither have I. I'm just trying to steal from you. So that's the only reason I'm asking.
No. Yeah. Well, then you and I, we're going to go to the bank, get a bunch of pennies and we're going to dive into them.
Heck yeah.
No, heck yeah, man. So no, I think, man, you know, moving here, definitely, you know, one of the biggest reasons we haven't really dove into why I moved here, and that's fine. But you know, being here definitely provided me the opportunity to get a remote recording studio, which is something that was not going to happen in LA. You know, anything you hear on the news about LA's housing market is true. Okay, it's definitely true. Just look on Zillow, and your mind's gonna melt out your brain.
I bet.
Melt out your nose is what I meant to say. So, you know, it just wasn't looking likely that on my salary and my fiance's salary that we were going to be able to afford a house, which is necessary. You can't really do remote recording from an apartment. Yep. So, when we came here and we bought a house, you know, the most important thing was I was going to be able to have a basement with a minimum of 9-foot ceilings so I could build a recording studio. And I built a full-on room within a room. So my recording studio is actually a freestanding structure inside of my basement with its own, it supports its own roof and everything like that. That's not, none of it is attached to the main house whatsoever. So it's completely 100% soundproof. My goal is, I think for 2023 is to make sure that all of the time and energy that I spent building that studio ends up helping to pay for itself.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, I'm actually doing some musicians marketing courses right now to help me just gain more clients, just get more clientele. I have a pretty good number of clients right now, and it's just been slowly building. You know, anytime you're a freelancer, I mean, you know, it's a marathon and not a sprint. You know, it's like it's a long build.
It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, and so you know, I'm in that right now. So I'm year 2. I'm just going to start year 3 into this. And I know what I've been doing as far as marketing has been working a little bit, which has mostly been word of mouth marketing from just friends and contacts that I've made throughout the years, you know, being in LA and playing with bands and doing tours and that kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff has paid off. But I really need to be reaching out to people whom I've never met before and start doing some more work with other singer-songwriters who need drums, you know? So I think that's probably my biggest goal is I would like to maybe make 75% of my income be derived from remote recording.
Nice.
Yeah. I think maybe it'd be cool to kind of flip it from live playing.
But you're not stepping down from playing any less, correct?
No, because, you know, like I said earlier today, it was, you know, most of the gigs here happen Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. And
so you have a lot of time to fill.
Yeah. So I have the rest of my week just kind of where I'm either songwriting or recording for other people. And, you know, I'm at a place right now where I could probably knock out 3 or 4 sessions a day.
Oh.
I don't think I'll ever be booked that full because I don't think there's probably not that many songwriters in the world. But, you know, if I could do like 6 sessions a week or something like that would probably tip the scales for me.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. But I'll never stop playing live. I got to say that playing live is definitely, something that I hold like deep in my soul. That's like the thing that I think I'm probably best at in my life.
Nice.
You know,
there is something special about it.
Yeah.
And getting people dancing and moving and just that energy that you feel on stage.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie with your band.
Absolutely.
It's special.
100%. Yeah.
Being in the studio, I find it more challenging. It works a different part of my brain.
Yeah.
And like an 8-hour studio day, you're exhausted. But 8 hours on a gig day, you're still tired, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, on a gig day, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours of real playing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me in the studio, the challenges for me switching from being a session player in a physical studio with an engineer and all that kind of stuff I face in my basement studio is not having somebody on the other side of the glass telling me just do one more take, or a producer saying, oh, maybe do a different fill to lift up, or maybe change out the snare drum or use different
so
cymbals.
You're always second guessing like maybe what you're playing.
Yeah, it's like I have to do the role of the engineer and the producer and the drummer all at the same time.
That's what I struggle with as well, because you could do like a whole chorus on the ride, but if the client was there or the producer,
they'd be like, no,
they could have nipped it right in the butt, but instead you do a few takes playing that chorus on the
That's
ride,
why
and you're just wasting your time.
When I do remote sessions, my philosophy is I want to make sure I get it right, because you know the artist has to live with it, you know, and so I offer unlimited revisions. So I will send you
years down.
Please, no, please. No, at some point the gig is going to come to an end. But you know, if I record something and then I send them my, you know, let's just say hypothetically they said, oh, just do your own thing, like whatever you think is going to be correct for the song, I'll do that. And then I'll think like a producer, not like a drummer. I'll think like a producer. Don't fills everywhere. You know, like, you know, maybe don't play all those ghost notes on the snare drum. Maybe don't use the left foot hi-hat, you know, that kind of stuff, whatever. And I'll send them something, and I would say probably 75% of the time they're like, yeah, it was great, thanks. But, you know, sometimes there's a client that's just like, you know, I had a different idea. Okay, cool. Let me know what you want to do, and I'll redo it, send it off, and they'll be like, you know, I don't think I've ever done more than 2 sets of revisions for somebody, because usually, you know, I know how to talk to other musicians, you know, songwriters, and be like, I can get pretty close to what they want.
Yep.
You know, just by asking a couple simple questions, you know, it's
and at no fault of your own, but if you have to have 3 or so different revisions, then you're probably not the right guy for the project, or vice versa.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Sometimes
they're just not communicating properly.
Sometimes that's the thing, you know, sometimes people just don't know what they want. And those are the hardest clients to please, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, the fastest way to failure is trying to please everybody, you know, and if you are, if you have like your takes and you have your idea of how the drum part goes, and the artist that you're recording for is like, yeah, I'm just looking for something different. You know, you have to try to get it out of them, how to have them articulate how they want it to go. Because it's like, you know, can you maybe just send me a recording of a song that you really like or something like that I can check out?
Yeah.
And, you know, I can think of one instance for sure that I've worked with somebody where I sent them something and they're like, oh, that was super weird. That was not really what I was looking for. And I was like, oh, okay, well, just let me know. Can you send me a song? Can you send me like something to, you know, reference?
Yeah, let's figure this out.
Yeah, let's figure this out. Let's make this great. And they sent me something, and it sounded nothing like the song that they had sent me to record, but the drum part I could understand right away. I was like, oh, that actually would be kind of cool, but it's something that I never in a million years would have thought of. But then I was like, okay, cool. And I almost just recreated the thing that they had sent me. And they were like, oh, perfect. Nailed it.
Nice.
I was like, oh, thank you. Good.
We should have led off with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Man.
So communication's a big thing.
Yeah. So since you do so much remote recording, for me, a lot of the fun is buying equipment and playing with it and setting it up and getting the cable management perfectly. And
because nothing makes a record sound better than great cable management.
Exactly. That's just my OCD personality.
I love it.
Just indulge us and maybe some of the engineers that might be watching this. What's your mic locker look like? Just a general overview. We don't have to like get too deep into it, but I'm curious.
Well, I mean, it changes a lot with whomever I'm recording for, the part that I'm recording for. You know, I'm basically doing. I think probably what I found works best for me is recording 16 channels of drums. That way. What's that?
I like that.
Yeah, bro. You got to get on that Octapre we were talking about. Recording that many channels gives people, like whomever is going to end up mixing the song or mixing the track, it gives them the most opportunity to do what they think is going to be correct to make the drums sound the way they want them to sound. So if I was only offering, you know, like 4 channels or 5 channels, or like just doing a Glyn Johns technique, if anybody out there knows what that is, or Recorder Man setup or something like that. If I was only offering that, that's very limiting. That's very, very limiting to somebody who's going to be recording. And you got to make sure too, as the drummer, producer, engineer at the time when you're doing the remote session, you have to make sure that you have all that stuff set up correctly so that, you know, somebody can get that really good sound out of it. But I've just basically fallen to the thing of just recording 16 channels. So what I'll do, I guess, input list wise, kick in, I'll use an AKG D112. Sometimes I'll substitute that out for the SM91. I have a really cool vintage 91. I know you have a 91 here in your kick with the Kelly shoe.
Yeah.
Mine, I just put a towel in and just roll it in.
It works. You're not taking it on the road, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So I'll do that, and I'll put it like maybe like 2 or 3 inches away from the beater where the beater's hitting. Then on kick out, I'm doing a Neumann FET 47.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's, you know, I experiment a lot, either putting it right up against the kick head or putting it out maybe 12 inches or something like that to kind of let the sound and the air of the head develop into the mic, you know, into the diaphragm a little bit. So that's usually my kick setup. Snare setup, I'll do I have a modified SM57. It's a transformerless Granelli mod 57. If anybody's out there super nerdy and knows about mics, you might know about that. But basically, you take a regular SM57, you pull the transformer out of it, and you resolder it, and basically it takes out all of that that weird mid range. You're gonna have to gain it up quite a bit. That's what the transformer really does in the mic, is it adds a lot more of like gain to it. So so I have a transformerless on top, and then I have a normal 57 on the bottom. And I'll try to make sure that those two mics are close to equidistant from the beating area of the drum, but I also make sure that that bottom mic is always right underneath the snare guts. It's always underneath the chains. So that's usually my snare drum sound. Sometimes I'll use a Josephson E22S on the snare. If you know what that is, that's a side address microphone. I'll use that sometimes. Sometimes it sounds really good. I'll use that mainly for if it's going to be like really like hi-hat heavy grooves and stuff like that, because
it doesn't bleed.
Yeah, it doesn't bleed. It cancels out a lot. It also just, sounds really dark and natural on the snare drum. It has a really cool sound. So
nice.
Toms, I'll use those Josephson. We have 3 of those right now. The E22S's on the toms. I usually only play a 2-tom kit, but I have a bunch of drums in my studio, so sometimes I use a 4 toms, a kit that has 4 toms. And I have three of those E22S's, and then I'll put an Audix D4 on the kick drum.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Sometimes if I just want like a really warm, dry sound, I'll use the AKG 414 XL2s on the toms, like if I do a dual tom setup. But most often I have those AKGs, the 414s, on overheads. So I have a low ceiling in my room, which kind of sucks. But
tell me about it.
Yeah, I have them centered right over the snare drum right now, currently in my current setup, and then I have them facing on like a 45-degree angle away. So they're kind of just like catching a stereo image of the kit. And we'll get back into overheads in a minute. On hi-hat, I have an Audio-Technica 40, I can't remember the name. That might be it. But it's just a condenser mic. If I ever need to have a ride cymbal mic, I have a pair of those. I have a stereo pair. I'll put another one on the ride cymbal, but I almost never use a ride cymbal mic. And then, so for overheads, 414s or Coles 4038s. Currently, I have a Coles 4038 in the mono position, just right over the snare drum, in between the two 414s, to kind of just catch like the mono image. And that's a ribbon mic, so it catches it gets all the cymbals really, really well, but it also picks up some really cool attacks from the toms and stuff like that. And then as far as a room mic goes, I'll either set up another 4038 as a room mic, or I also have Neumann the TLM 170s. I'll have one of those that I'll set up in the room, but then outside of my room, sometimes I'll open my studio doors and I'll put I have an Electro Voice, an EV6035. I realize I'm going way into the weeds here.
I love it.
And if no one's interested, I'm sorry. But if you're a studio nerd, you totally get what I'm saying. I'll put an EV635 on the floor facing the bottoms of the doors. And that picks up this really kind of cool room sound.
That sounds awesome.
Or I'll put another TLM in my stairs, rather. And kind of just pick up the ambience of the whole space.
You're working with what you have.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds pretty good. And you just run that through a transient designer, and you got any room you want.
And you give all of that to the producer and engineer.
Yep.
And say, have fun with it. And they're all dry stems.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So they'll be EQ'd just the tiniest bit, just to make sure the drums sound sexy, But then I'll just send dry stems. But I also usually just send a stereo mix, a stem of all of the drums, and I'll just do like a quick mix. I run Apollo in my studio, so I'll use all the Apollo plugins like the 1073s and stuff like that on the snares and kicks and. The 512, the API stuff on overheads, and that kind of stuff. So, so I'll just do like a quick mix down and just send that as well. I'll be like, this is kind of where I think the drums would sound good, and then the artist can decide, okay, well maybe we'll try to mix the drums like that, or we'll just ignore it and do our own thing.
Can you give me that Glenn John method? Yeah. So your studio is Blue Rock Studio. Correct?
Yes.
And for those of you that are following along on Instagram, it's at blue_rock_studio. If you want to follow Jeremy, it's Jeremy_plays_drums. And Option Command, the synthwave band.
The synthwave extravaganza.
Yes, is opt.cmd.
By the way, all this stuff is just easily accessible. If you just go to my Instagram and you just look at my link tree, everything's right there. Our music video that we released for Option Command is right there. It's the first thing that pops up, and then I have a full list there of a Spotify playlist of tracks that I've played on, and then below that I have a video playlist of music video stuff that I've done.
You've made it really easy, and your website is awesome. It looks like there are a couple things that you're working on that are still in development with the website. Can you talk about those things a little bit?
Well, my website, I've kind of been learning lately that I just need to trim my offerings down. When I first put up my website, I was just like, I learned how to studio build. I learned how to, do these 10,000 things. And I was like, I want to offer this information to anybody who wants to know. And honestly, it was just like, none of that stuff is really going to garner me any gigs or any income.
Yeah.
So it's like, if anybody really wants to hit me up and talk about studio building, I'm all ears, but I'm not going to charge you for it. That'd be kind of ridiculous at this point. But as far as my website goes, I don't really send people there that often, and it's going to be changing a lot coming up here as I'm pivoting to focusing more on remote recording. So that website is going to become more of a landing page for people who want remote recording, who want to hire me for remote recording, are going to be able to understand what my process is and what they need to prepare and that kind of stuff. But currently my website's just kind of like a mishmash of everything I guess I'm capable of doing, not necessarily all the things that I want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Okay. I've fallen victim to that as well with my website. It's like, ooh, I want to do this project and I want to do that and I can do this. And so you make a page for it. And then after a while, it's like, this is just like option overload for people.
Dang you, Squarespace. Why are you doing this to me?
And I use Wix, but if I had to do it
I'm
over
not smart
again,
enough for Wix.
If I had to do it over again, I'd probably go with Squarespace.
I've been told now that I need to delete my Squarespace and go with something else. But
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about that later.
Let's nix that then.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on Wix forever. But yeah, it's real easy, to make a page for it, offer that as a service, because it doesn't hurt. You know, you're putting yourself out there, and even if you get one client, then it was worth it. But
yeah, true.
Throughout the years, I've kind of refined the website and have hidden certain pages, just to clean things up a little bit. That's just part of the process. You just don't know.
And there's a great discussion out there about the relevance of websites anyway these days for artists in particular, and what that website really serves for artists. Because most people, when they want to hear an artist, where do they go? They don't go to the artist's website.
Yeah.
Where do they go? They go to Spotify. They go to Apple Music. They'll go to YouTube, that kind of thing. So what is an artist's website really serving? Maybe it has show dates, but your show dates can just go on Bands in Town or Bandzoogle or something like that. Does it serve to just kind of, basically I see a website now as just like an EPK, an electronic press kit.
Yep.
And that's really it. That's all it really needs to do.
It's better than Sonic bids. Go to my Sonic bids.
Oh, yeah. Sonic bids. Don't get me started.
Sorry. That was a little throwback. So scrolling through your live pictures with Michelle, I noticed you have quite the setup. You've got a laptop to your left, a Roland SP SX pad. Can you explain to me with that particular live project, what's your setup? Are you running tracks? Is it a click? Do everyone in the band, do they have the click going? Can you just explain your setup a little bit?
No, I cannot.
Gear nerds?
I'm sorry, I can't. No, no, absolutely. So if there's gear nerds watching this, I've every time I roll into a gig, I always consider what is the value that I add to this gig that goes beyond just being a drummer. Okay. You know, if I want to keep a gig, this might just be an LA thing that was beaten into me, you know, but it's like, if I'm going to keep a gig, if I'm going to remain in this gig or know that I have this, you know, this great schedule coming up, what value do I add to that artist? And one of those things that I think I was able to bring to Michelle was my ability to build, maintain, and run a tracks show. So, you know, we have this huge set list of songs that we can play. And so what we did was I took all those and built tracks, backing tracks, you know, of the instruments that we can't perform live on stage to help make all the songs sound more full. And so, you know, I run that through Ableton. I have a lot of experience with Ableton, you know, doing work with other bands when I was back in LA and stuff like that. So I built a whole track show in Ableton. So to my left, my far left, I have my playback rig, which is, you know, it's a little flight case that has a small, I have like a half rack power conditioner, and then I have a half rack Motu MK3, which has 10 outputs. So I'm actually providing 8 individual channels of tracks to front of house.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and basically you do that because you like driving your front of house guys crazy. No, I'm just kidding. So
does that go to like an X32, and then from the X32 it goes to front of house, or?
Well, we can get into that, but yeah, we when we run up to a show, we have a split snake that we bring with us, because we run our own ears rig, so we have our own mixer on stage and stuff like that. But as far as my gear is concerned, I have every track. I have a percussion track, a guitarist track, a bass track, a percussion track. I already said percussion, I think. There's like a synthesizer track with like organs and keys and stuff like that.
Of course, it would be synth.
Yeah. So I have all of that stuff running out individually. So sound guys are able to mix all of those tracks individually.
That's great.
So yeah, it makes it so much easier for them. And you know, 99% of the time, the sound guys are like super open to that. They're like, "Wow, that's great, thank you." But sometimes you roll up to gigs where sound guys are like, you know, I don't want all those inputs. So I do have everything routed to a summed channel where everything's just coming out one channel. And I'll just be like, "Oh, I'll just give you the one channel."
Yeah.
So I have that in my playback rig, and then I'm running a MacBook with Ableton. So I have that, and then immediately next to that, I have an 8-inch deep snare drum, because, you know, country music, sometimes you need those deep fat snares. And I have a big fat snare drum on it,
as you should.
Yeah. So I have that, and then I have my regular 5-inch deep snare drum that I use for most everything else, and then it's a 4-piece kit. On top of that, I use a 24-inch bass drum with a 13 and a 16, which are Bonham sizes, because we've talked about that. We're big Bonham fans. And then I have 2 crashes on my left. I actually run my crashes sort of backwards. So I have all my bigger crashes on the left and my smaller crashes on the right, just because I like having those larger sounds. You know, if I'm going to play a fill and I'm going to end over here on the left side of the kit, sometimes I want that darker crash as my release rather than always having to go over here for the darker crash.
Really? So you're actually like...
Yeah.
Doing that thing.
Yeah. And sometimes I think of harmonically like lighter, brighter crashes, smaller crashes, higher pitch crashes as kind of like the crash sometimes that either augments the sound of another crash cymbal, or sometimes it's the crash that I play in the middle of a fill. So I keep all that stuff off to the right hand side. Okay. So I can just like hit that in the middle of something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Heck
That's basically my setup.
Okay. Right on. Aluminum snare drum. Maple, like for your 5-inch.
Pearl makes this really cool hybrid snare drum. It's a VectraCast snare drum, and it's like a hybrid plastic material. If you take the bottom head off and you look at it, it's like if it was, if you could, you know, think about it in the terms of like wood plies, it'd be like a 2-ply drum.
Wow. It's
super thin, and the bearing edge on it is like crazy tight.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's so easy to tune. And the tension rods on it, the lugs on it, everything on it is so smartly designed. Like the lugs actually pivot, so when you're tuning it, they're not pulling the tension rods this way or that way. It always keeps them straight up and down.
Really?
And they have these things. And forgive me, Pearl. I think they're called True Tone or True Tune. tension rods. So the tension rod itself has an Allen key. It's drilled out completely in the middle and has an Allen key screw in the middle. So once you get the snare drum tuned to a certain tension, whatever you like, you can take an Allen key then in the top of the tension rod and tighten it down, and it expands the bottom of the tension rod inside the lug casing.
Yeah.
Wow, we're really in the weeds here.
I love it.
But it freezes the tension rod in place so that you don't lose tension throughout your show.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
I've never even heard of that. How would you describe the sound of it?
It sounds like a steak. I'm just kidding.
Like
no, it's
juicy steak.
No, I mean,
so like a porterhouse or like a ribeye.
It's like a Victoria fillet. No, it's the way I tune it is it's very bright and it's very resonant. You know, I'm a firm believer that if the way you hit a snare and the way and where you hit a snare drum will completely change the tone and the characteristic of that drum. Some songs I'm playing way off center. Some songs I'm playing directly in the middle. Sometimes, you know, when I'm playing train beats, like, do you mind if I demonstrate?
Not at all.
So when I'm playing train beats, I realize we probably don't have a good angle on this, but I'll play my right and my left hand alternating.
We actually do have a great angle for this.
Bro.
Yeah.
So
you'll see it in post.
I'll play time on the edges of the drum, and then I'll put the accents in the middle, like. You know, and for me, it makes the snare drum sound bigger and more full, rather than just being this like tight, dry thing. You know, all the time.
Robotic.
Yeah, exactly. So I very much like being able to play with the tone of my snare drum. While, you know, for certain songs I might like playing like right in the center. For other songs I like off center. You can hear what that does. That changes the tone. So that's right in the center. And then off center, it completely changes the character of the drum. So if I go back in the middle, you know, it totally changes everything. So hopefully that comes through live. On the Facebook feed.
I think it would.
Yeah,
and so I've got my in-ears in, and you could tell a big difference when you're hitting on the side. It's a bit pingier. Yeah. And I know that's my snare, and it's, you know, I tuned it and I only have one moon gel.
It sounds great.
But when you're hitting the side, you could tell a big difference, and you get that. It's a little bit pingier. When you're hitting in the middle, it's a lot more focused.
Yeah. And the same thing can be said about ride cymbals and stuff like that. You know, wherever you hit a ride cymbal, you know, a ride cymbal has three parts. It has the edge, it has the bow, it has the bell. And wherever you play that ride cymbal, it's going to have different tones. Now, this is Aaron's sweet ride. Now, I've never really played
23
this.
inches, baby.
Dude, this ride cymbal's sick. So, you know, obviously you have the bell sound, but then you have the bow, the sound of the bow of the cymbal. But then the sound of the edge of the cymbal, it's a lot more what we call washy, you know? So like sometimes those different sounds can be appropriate for different parts of a song, or like if you're playing like a different feel or something like that, you know, you can change the way your drum set sounds without changing out drums and cymbals by just choosing to play on different places of your drum set. And so that's one of the things when I play live that I nerd out about. Like I get like super into that.
Yeah. And I have a feeling we're kind of the same, where when you show up to your gig with Michelle, you probably like to show up with the same cymbals. You've probably eventually honed in on which cymbals are best for that gig and which snares.
You and I have the exact same taste in cymbals, I'm just going to say.
Awesome. Yes. I like your style.
Yeah.
And so you want to bring the same stuff every time. It makes your job easier. Everyone knows what to expect. Like your band doesn't want you to surprise them with some weird side snare or something on a different part of a song. Like, so you honed in on that.
I very rarely tell them if I'm going to do something different. You know, we played a show last week where I had a complete backlined kit, cymbals and everything, which, you know, that never happens. And usually if you roll up to a backline kit, the first thing you do is take down the cymbals.
For sure. Cause they have like,
I didn't. I didn't. They had A
The
Customs.
S series or whatever. They had A Customs?
Yeah, they had A Customs,
Okay.
which, yeah, exactly. I had the same feeling. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. I'll just try these.
It's going to be brighter.
I hit them. I played with them a little bit. I tried to find all the tones. I was like, okay, these might be good. And then when we started playing the show, I was like, oh, no.
This is why I bought K's.
Right, exactly. So I was like, but I don't think anybody in the band, and this isn't to speak bad about anybody in the band. I don't think anybody noticed that that I was like, just trying to find the right ride cymbal sound by hitting it in the right place, or like that I was like trying to play the crashes melodically to get them like to sound the right way. So, but whatever. I'm in my own head. Drummers, we're always in our own worlds anyway.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
My favorite ride is a 24-inch K light ride.
Interesting.
I've got it in my case in there, but it's gotten to the point where I don't even want to bring it out live anymore.
What?
Yeah, so it stays in the studio. Yeah, so I got a 22-inch K light ride is what I typically use live.
Is it dark?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I bought the 24-inch used, so it has more age to it and more grit, and it's just dirtier, and I love it. And it's been through a lot of bar gigs that I've played, and so there's a lot of Jägermeister stains on it.
Do you polish your cymbals?
No.
Me neither.
No.
Don't polish your cymbals. You heard it here first.
Yep.
Don't do it. Stop that.
I'm not a fan. I know it works for some people, but the dirtier, the better. And
I want to meet those people who say it works for them, and I want to tell them otherwise. They must be playing A Customs.
I've never gone as far as like burying my cymbal like some people do in their backyard.
That would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
You just want to get the sweat and
Yep, the patina or whatever. The swet, the booze,
you get that green dribble down the cymbal.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I'm never cleaning that.
Nope. That's to the character.
Yeah.
And that's what my 24-inch has. My 22 is, I bought it brand new, and so it's still getting the mileage. It'll get there.
My ride of choice is a K Custom 20-inch dark ride.
Okay, 20-inch.
That cymbal crashes amazingly.
I bet.
So here's the cool thing that I like about that cymbal, and I've been playing that cymbal since 2002.
You've put some miles on it.
Yeah, well, not this particular cymbal. I have, well, not this one,
Yep.
but the one that's in my cymbal bag is probably one that I've had for maybe 10 years. I do own 3 of them. I'm not embarrassed to say I have 3 of the same cymbal, but they all sound totally different.
Yeah,
they all sound totally different from one another because they're all hand hammered. When you get under that K Custom series, you can even see here like Aaron has K Custom crash cymbal over there, and you can see it has the hand hammering in it. Those are all hand done hammering. When you look at some of these, like the Sweet Ride, you can see those are probably machine hammered. We don't need to go super into the weeds on this, but that's all done by the same dude all the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and those cymbals just have a different characteristic than all of the others. So the 3 that I have, they all have completely different characteristics. The one I chose to use for Michelle is one that sounds the most dry when I play near the bell. When I'm playing on the bow near the bell, and then also when I crash on it, it has this crazy dark crash. It almost has it doesn't have a lot of mid range to it, but like it crashes dark. And it has a lot of articulation when you play it.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
It's that happy medium that everyone tries to find in a ride. I like crashability.
Yes.
I love that. But you also want a pristine bell.
Yep.
And you want a defined
That's
bell.
the only thing I can say. It has a cool bell, but it's small. Okay, it's a small bell. And so I know oftentimes when I go to play anything on the bell when I'm playing live with Michelle, I'm staring at that cymbal. And I'm just like looking for accuracy, you know, like an archery person. Just like I need to make sure that I'm hitting that bell. And that's been like that was my summer goal last year during all of our summer things, was like I'm gonna play all of the bells correctly. I'm not gonna hit a rim when I go to do a rim shot.
Yep.
I set all these goals for myself, and
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, everybody, thanks for hanging out, watching.
Did we get to? Did anybody have any questions or anything like that? It doesn't.
Now is your chance, guys. If you have any questions, we're going to jam to ride this out. And after the jam, I'm going to be looking, see if there's any questions. And we'll just ride it out from there. So, Jeremy, thank you so much. Is there any final statements? Do you have any shows coming up that you want people to come to, or you want to talk about anything that we didn't quite cover?
Well, like you've pointed out, festival season's over and we're in the bars right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anybody wants to come out and just introduce themselves, like we hung out last night at a show.
Yeah, it was great.
It was the first time we met, and we also at the same time met a bunch of other musicians, and it was awesome. It was super rad, and that was one of the first like big musician like meetups that I've had here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
More of that, please. If any of you guys want to come out to any of our shows, just follow Michelle Robinson Band on Facebook. She updates that, or also on her michellerobinsonband.com. We have a schedule that goes, it's planned out, 9-10 months in advance.
Nice.
So I'm sure there's something that you can come out, but please come out, introduce yourself to me. Let me know who you are, that you heard me on the podcast. Let's just talk music, man. I'm super down. Super easy to hang out with.
I love it. Well, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you the past 2 nights.
Thanks.
Greatly appreciate your time. You are an awesome addition to the Cincinnati, Dayton music scene.
Thank you.
Really happy to have you. We need more people out here like you. And just talking to you through like Instagram throughout the months, it was obvious, like, we need to hang out. You're a great dude. I've heard through Chris and other people that you're a great musician.
By the way, don't believe anything Chris says.
No, never. That's rule number 1. And we can say that because we know he's not watching.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mindy, for working all the switches back there.
Thank you, dear. Yeah. All right, get some good angles on this jam.
No, we jamming?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Right, we're going to jam to ride this out. I didn't see any more questions come through. And I also do know that there are going to be people that are going to watch this outside of it being live. And
yeah, for sure.
For the rewatchers. So by all means, still like hit us up if you have any questions. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to send us these questions right now. It doesn't have to be live. We're accessible individuals. So anyways, all right, you guys have a good night. We're going to jam. Jeremy, see if you can lay down a groove and we'll make it work.
See if I can after I finish this bourbon.
Yeah.
Let's try this groove. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. You have a great night. I had a blast.
Thanks. I had a blast too. Thanks, man.